welcome to another episode of the Love Means Business podcast, where love, learning, and leveling up intersect. I am so excited about our guests today. We have Jason here with us. Jason, how are you feeling about being on the podcast today?
I'm super excited to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and to chat with you for a little bit.
Well, I've had the opportunity to work with you one on one, and I've really gotten to know your story and your heart and just your love for helping others through your journey. And I can't wait to share that with everyone else that's listening and watching because it really is inspiring. And you really are a wonderful example of what it means to lead with love and to really be doing it for, in my humble opinion, the right reason. All right. So before we really dive deep, I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are today and the work that you're doing now in your own words. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing now. And yeah, let's dive in with that.
Absolutely. Well, it all started, I have a retail leadership background. I started out as a kid pushing carts at a grocery store in Las Vegas. I worked my way up through retail, through the grocery business to a district level. Then I was a district manager for another retail location. And through all of that, I've learned a lot and had a lot of hard lessons on leadership and different ways to help people out. I also had somewhat of a tumultuous past, and it was a little bit harder growing up, but all of that put me into the place where I am now, where I'm able to help people recognize when they're working in survival mode and they're living in survival mode as opposed to just being fruitful and able to go with the flow and to manage correctly.
Okay. So let's talk about this survival mode thing. And let's talk about your survival mode years where you struggled with burnout, some things in that fun category, again, being sarcastic. But you said something that I really wanted to shout out. I think maybe it's on your website, but correct me. I don't remember where I got this, but I really liked it. That most leaders don't burn out because they can't handle the work. They burn out because they've been leading from survival mode for too long. So take us back to that season of your life. What did survival mode actually look like for you day to day?
Survival mode goes all the way back to my childhood. So if we're going back that far, then
Yep. That's what this podcast is about. Take us back. Let's go.
absolutely.
Buckle up, guys. We're time traveling.
Yes, yes, back to the late 70s and early 80s. If that, explains how old I am. So I grew up and in a family of addicts. So my
Okay.
parents were alcohol, drugs, aunts, uncles, cousins, brother. I grew up in that environment. So when you grow up in an environment where you don't know how each day is going to go, you start going and living through survival mode. And in that, you're just trying to get through the next day, get through the next hour, and you never know how someone's anger or attitude or whatever will come through. So you start to learn how to really read a room, and
Hmm.
you start to learn what you can do and can't do. Um, I grew up with a lot of abuse. I grew up and there was physical abuse, there was sexual abuse, and there was emotional abuse. And when you grow up in that environment, you really, just to reiterate, you really have to pay attention to what's going on around you
Yeah.
and to survive. And I took that with me and into adulthood. And it just is survival mode. Every day is just you're trying to survive and you're just firing on all cylinders and your mind is just going 1,000 miles a minute trying to figure out, am I safe right now? Am I in a safe place where I can just be me?
Yeah.
And taking that into work and to burnout, it was just, I just want to be the best. So I want to prove that I'm okay. I want to prove that I have value. So I just kept trying to move up in the company. I just kept trying to get into the next promotion. And that served me well at the time, but the burnout, it's very difficult to live to work through survival mode and to be able to absolutely flourish because so much of your insides are just going and firing a million miles a
Yeah.
minute.
Thank you for sharing that painful, painful time. I mean, it's not easy to even say the word abuse and say that out loud. It can be hard sometimes and it can bring back those feelings. But a lot of people that are following and going to be listening, watching, they may really relate to that. And I find it personally interesting how the things that we go through in our childhood and our personal life then kind of manifests in our professional life. And sometimes one or the other kind of help us figure out one or the other. So have you found that like now that you're, very much we're both very much adults, right? Like we don't want to say our age, but we're definitely adults. Have you found in your adult life that sometimes whether it's maybe in a leadership role or something like that, it will bring back, like, a memory from your childhood, and then it almost helps you understand what happened, or I don't know. Does that make sense what I'm
Yeah,
asking you?
absolutely. So I have to believe that my childhood and my life happened for a reason. For far too long, it was woe's me, woe's me. And I played the victim. And I
Yeah,
thought that it was just, I'm like this because my parents did X, Y, and Z. I'm like this because this happened to me. And it wasn't until I went honestly through therapy and really, really acknowledged what happened to me and worked through that, that I was able to look at my past and say, okay, I'm not who I am because this happened to me. I'm who I am in spite of this happening to me. And I take that as a very important part of my life that I'm here to help people work through themselves and work through what they've gone through because so few men really talk about abuse,
yeah,
particularly sexual abuse.
yeah,
And that's a taboo subject. And I think it's important that we do talk about those things because they did happen. And so many people could be just sitting there ruminating in their life and then like, oh wow, this happened to me too. So someone is
yeah,
actually talking about that.
yeah. Well, thank you for having the courage to do that. I mean, even just guests on my podcast, I think people sometimes assume that I'm wanting to have like almost all women. And that's not the case. I just don't have a lot of men that are what are willing and able and I don't know if secure is the right word, but I think it's like you said, it's taboo for men to talk about things that have happened like that, and they just don't wanna go there, and so, I appreciate you going there because I think it needs to be talked about more, and I think it's good for men to talk about their feelings, and it doesn't make you weak. Women, we love it when you talk about your feelings and show that. I look at it as a very strong quality, so I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
So I want to get a little bit more into this sort of like perfectionism and how that played a role in burnout. And so I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that. So you describe being kind of that guy who said yes to like everything. And it sounds like maybe because you were chasing perfection, maybe trying to, I don't want to say compensate for what happened when you're younger, but maybe, you're trying to like
Yeah.
really prove something. Where do you feel like that pressure came from to say yes, to be perfect, all of that? Do you feel like that was external or more internal?
So going back to childhood and as a kid, I tried to be perfect. I got the best grades. I didn't do anything wrong. I was very, lack of a better word, very obedient
Yeah.
and I didn't try to get in trouble. So one story that kind of sums this up as a kid, I think it was first or second grade, and they were trying to teach us to not use the restroom unless you go to recess.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I raised my hand. I need to go to the bathroom. They're like, okay, we had these little pieces of paper that had little boxes on them, and you would check off a box if you did something wrong. So the first one was like a warning. And she's like, okay, bring your paper up and I'll go ahead and check off the warning. And I'm like, no, never mind. It's okay. So I sat there and I tried to hold it until I actually peed myself. And I was
I'm so
sitting in
sorry.
that, yeah. And recess time came. I just put my head down and started to cry. And my teacher's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I went to the bathroom. And she's like, well, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, I did, but you told me I'd get a warning. I can't have that on my permanent record. That was the way I thought of things
Wow.
as a kid. And I always wanted to prove that I had value and prove that I had worth because I didn't feel valued or worth
Yeah.
anything. In my own family, I felt like I didn't belong. I was very different. from the rest of my family and music and movies and stuff that I enjoyed. As you can see behind me, I'm a huge Batman fan. I love
Yeah, I was gonna
stuff.
gonna ask about that. I see a lot of different superheroes, definitely
Yeah,
Batman, and is that, oh my gosh, Venom? No. What's the black one on the top?
it's almost all Batman.
Okay, okay.
So Batman had a huge impact on me as a kid because this was a guy who didn't have superpowers. He wasn't gifted with all these extra abilities.
Yeah,
He just had a very traumatic thing happen to him in his early childhood and took that and used that to later on become the best human being he could possibly be and to make sure it didn't happen to other people. So I took a lot of that into myself.
yeah,
A lot of the time, in going back to just trying to be perfect, I would just push things down. Things would come up as I would get angry, I would try to push it down and bury it and bury it and bury it, which is a horrible thing to do. I don't
yeah,
recommend that for anybody.
yeah.
It had gotten to the point where they my doctor thought I had a brain tumor
Oh,
because I
wow,
had tremors in my hands, I was bruising, and it was just all due to stress.
wow,
And just going back to living in survival mode, just trying to be perfect and try to do everything right
wow.
and just burying everything and not dealing with anything.
Yeah.
So I was an angry, angry individual many years ago.
I'm gonna show my nerdy side a little bit here, but this is gonna get us off topic, whatever. I like to have fun in these
Yeah,
interviews, just not all
absolutely.
serious. So, what is I mean, okay, I know the differences with Iron Man and Batman, and they're the different universes, but they're so similar, I feel like, in a lot of ways. Why'd you pick Batman over Iron Man? Like, why?
So so if you go Batman is very dark and brooding. Iron Man, until the MCU came out, and this is really showing my geek card here.
Yeah.
Until the MCU came out, Iron Man was like a C-level superhero character in the
Oh,
comic books.
really?
Yeah,
Okay, I didn't know that.
he wasn't that popular. When they started the MCU, they brought characters that weren't necessarily as popular as some of the other characters.
Okay,
Because to go back even more nerdy, because they didn't have the rights to a lot of the characters like the X-Men.
okay,
Fox had the rights to those ones.
got it. Okay.
To me, Batman's just cooler.
Yeah,
And he focuses his anger to bring himself to peak physical and
yeah,
mental human capacity. And just that in itself, and always looking out for the little guy and
yeah.
always looking for the underdog and the people who can't fend for themselves. That's the difference between Batman and Iron Man.
Yeah. Well, there you go, guys. Probably didn't think that would be part of this discussion, but I'm glad that you finally cleared that up for me. I've actually wondered that more than I should because I like both, and I find it interesting, like with DC versus Marvel, and there's similarities. I feel like because I'm always looking for like storylines. That's how my brain works, and I'm like,
Yeah,
does anyone else not notice the storyline similar, like kind of with these two? Like they have some similarities,
absolutely.
and but definitely differences too. But that's interesting. I didn't know that Iron Man was kind of like a back player or whatever.
Yes,
Very, very interesting. And I think it's cool too that you talked about how that was kind of a inspiration for you, probably sort of like not a distraction, but in a way probably gave you hope too, even though it's not a real person. Having something like Batman to just focus on probably gave you a little bit of that motivation or inspiration of, I don't know, something to look up to, something to think about that wasn't scary and sad. When you're a kid, sometimes you need that.
absolutely. It was an escape for me.
Yeah.
Cartoons, movies, TV shows, those were all an escape for me. Comic books.
Yeah.
I loved comic books when you got beat up for liking comic books. Before,
My gosh, that's horrible to hear
yeah,
that.
yeah. Before the MCU and all these things came out, I used to have comic book cards like baseball trading cards of the different comic book heroes, and me and my friends would pull them out, and we'd have to argue who would win in a battle.
Oh,
And then we would have like, okay, if they made a movie, who would be this person? Who would play this person? And that was such an important part of my life that I was able to transition that to my son, who also loves Batman. He thinks he's Batman, but clearly he's
aw,
not because I am almost 30 now. So Yeah, that's
That's
once again
funny.
showing my age, but it was very cool to be able to translate that part of my life without the trauma to him so that
Yeah.
that became a big part of his life, and it's something that we can both talk about and have fun with.
So I know you love Batman, but did you ever come up with your own superhero name or character?
So I did an amalgamation of Batman and Darth Vader.
Oh, okay.
So I did the Darth Knight. So the Dark Knight is Batman and then Darth Vader, so I did the Darth Knight.
Uh,
And then yeah, and then, in the early days of AOL, that was my screen name was the Darth Knight.
oh my gosh, AOL. That's dating both of us too, because
Yes.
like whenever I hear AOL, I just hear dial up in my
Yep,
head. I can hear like the noise. And if you ever had bad dial up, which I did living in the country, it was so stressful because you're like, I don't know if it's gonna go through. Like it just would keep going.
absolutely. Or you're on the
People
call or you're trying to download something, and then
yeah,
someone calls in, and it just ruins the whole thing, you have to
ruins
start
the
all
whole
the way
thing.
over from the beginning,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kids these days will never know the
No.
struggle for internet that we once had. Although I honestly wish that we could go back sometimes because it's a lot. It's a lot of
Yes,
overstimulation now. But
absolutely.
okay, well, thank you for talking to me about that. That was fun, and I think again, a lot of people can relate to that of having, like you said, some kind of escape. I know when I was a kid, going through some of the things I had to go through as well. I had the same thing. I would find myself daydreaming and like coming up with these like alternate realities in a way, just because I didn't want to be where I was, and it gave me something that was nice to think about versus what was actually going on. So that can be very helpful. And it can be translated when you get older in a positive way too, because you learn how to change how you feel, change your mindset through visualization. You might not think about it like that when you're a kid,
Yeah.
but I think about that now because I've also done therapy. And that was one of the things that really helped me was visualization techniques because it's kind of the same thing I did as a kid. So anyway, let's move on to talk about the cost of fear based leadership. First of all, what does that mean to you when I say fear based leadership? What kind of tell me what that brings up in your mind?
That you're just leading from a place where you're afraid that you're going to mess something up, you're not going to do something correctly. And instead of from a place of love and acceptance, where you start thinking just of only of the metrics and you forget about the human aspect of leadership. And the human aspect of leadership is by far more important. Being able to take the people that you work with and to actually make them better in a loving, kind way far outweighs any other form of leadership, in my opinion.
I mean, I 100% agree. And I know one of the things that you've said and that I think we all would probably agree to is that when you're in that survival mode, sometimes one of the reactions or things that happen from that is that you do end up leading from that fear base instead of love. So, talk to me a little bit about that. Was that something that you were doing at one point and you recognized that you were leading more fear based, or was that something maybe someone else was doing around you that you recognized?
That was more of a thing that I recognized around me.
Okay.
I learned a lot from leaders of what not to do. To go back to like the foundation of my leadership and where that came from, like the cornerstone of my leadership philosophy. I was number 2 in a grocery store. I just got promoted to the number 2 spot in the grocery store. So it was just the store manager and then me was number 2. And that was a big deal. That was huge, huge deal for me. I was 25 and it was I put in a lot of work to get to that point.
Yep.
My store manager went on vacation like the week after I got the promotion. So now not only am I in my new spot, now I have to cover her new spot or her spot. So I was stressed out beyond belief. Then we had um, a weekly sales meeting, and the district manager who loved me, he's like in the middle of the meeting. So it's just me as an assistant, brand new to the position, and a whole bunch of store managers who are seasoned, been there, who are just looking at me like I'm just the punk kid. And in the middle of the meeting, the district manager stops and he looks at me and goes, Jason, what's wrong? And now all eyes are on me. And I'm like, nothing, I'm good. And he's like, no, you're not your normal self. What's wrong? and everybody's just staring at me, and I'm very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And,
as
"No, no, no,
you
I'm
would
good."
be.
Yeah, yeah, "Let's move along." And then he's like, "Talk to me after the meeting." Like, "Okay." So, go through the meeting, everybody's, the punk kid, the newbie, the rookie, and, the meeting's over with, and then he comes up to me, he's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Well, it's the anniversary of my dad passing away, and I'm just a little melancholy."
Yeah,
And he's like, "Do you need time off?" And I'm like, "My store manager's on vacation."
yeah.
And he said, "That doesn't matter. It's just a store. It'll be there tomorrow. Do you need time off?"
Wow.
And that is so not the way things go in retail. And
I
that is,
know. I remember those days.
yeah. So that in of itself was, like I said, the cornerstone of how I built my leadership philosophy.
Okay.
And I've said multiple times, it's just a store. It'll be there tomorrow. It's just a store. It'll be there tomorrow. And then one of the cool things, you fast forward 25 years, and I was writing on LinkedIn, I was writing in my newsletter about that story, and I tagged him in it, Rich Wardwell, who was the district manager at the time, and now he's the president of a grocery company. And
Oh,
he reached back
wow.
out on there like, "Wow, I didn't expect this, to open my laptop today and see this
Yeah,
recognition. I appreciate that." And it was just a cool full circle moment because I've been able to give back in my leadership throughout the years to people and help build them up in the same way that he helped build me up.
that's awesome. I'm sure that meant so much to him, and I would also put this out here, anyone watching, listening, like, who is someone that's influenced your leadership, and have you told them? Like,
Yeah.
how much would it cost you? How much time, effort would it really be to send them a message, or better yet, shout them out in a post? I mean, that would literally make anyone's day, I would think, if you did that. I think a lot of people don't because they're like, well, I don't even know if they remember me, or like, like blah, blah, blah. Who cares?
Yeah.
Put it out there. Also, sharing examples like that gives other people ideas. So that person inspired you, and then you sharing that, you're potentially going to inspire someone else. So it's like you keep that cycle going, which is really, really cool. You had shared with me a story about something. I'm going to get it wrong, but let me try to prompt you for it. But it was something with like a visit, and you actually did the work, or you did the work
I know
for.
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, but
Yeah.
you didn't take the credit. So I want you to tell me about that story. Please do a better job than I am doing
No,
telling
no,
it.
no, no problem at all.
But it's
So
such
I
a
was
great
a
example of your leadership.
Yeah. I was a store manager at Hobby Lobby, and I got transferred to a brand not to a brand new, but I got transferred to a store, and unbeknownst to me, the morale there was terrible. Everybody was looking to move on to something else. Everybody was looking for other work because the management and the leadership there just wasn't up to par. So I had no idea about that. So I get there, and I came in. I'm like, look, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to take a couple weeks and just observe and see what's going on before we even start moving anything around. Because I know that when a new leader comes in, it can be very, very stressful on
Yeah,
the crew because you never know what you're going to get. And
it's true.
then it just so happened that my district manager came in before the store opened, and he said, "Hey, let's walk with the crew. So we're going to walk the store. Cool deal." So we start walking the store, and he's like, "Hey, this display looks really good." I'm like, "Thank you, sir. The team did a great job." And I could not have planned it better. I could not have orchestrated it. I could not have scripted this better. But one of the people from the back's like, "You did that yesterday." And I'm like, "Yeah, I did do that. But if you all weren't doing what you were supposed to be doing, I wouldn't have been able to focus the time and energy that I needed on this."
Yeah.
So it was a team effort. So then, like I said, I promise this is all accurate and true. We start walking, we turn a corner, and there's an empty end cap, which is empty real estate, and that's a big no-no because you're
Yeah, you
missing
can't do
sales.
that. Mhm.
And he's like, what's going on here?" I'm like, "That's my fault. I apologize. We'll take care of it immediately." Someone from the back's like, "I was supposed to do that last night, but I didn't do it. I
Like,
forgot to do
pipe
it."
down.
Yeah. And I said, "Well, one, this is my store. So if there's anything wrong with the store, that's my responsibility. And clearly I didn't
Yes.
explain to you how much it meant to me or how important it was that we got this done. So that falls back on me." So
Mhm.
I've always been one to any praise that I get, I bring out to the rest of the crew. And there's anything wrong, that's my fault because it's my store. And that in and of itself just gave me so much credibility
Yeah.
with the crew because they know that I'm not going to throw them under the bus. They know that I'm not going to like, oh, it was this person and they did that and I did all this great stuff. That's just not the way I do things. And when you work like that and you bring that leadership other to other people, because you don't have to have a title to be a leader. You can be a leader in the smallest position in the store. And as long as you are living and working through leadership qualities, you absolutely can lead people.
So let me ask you, and if you don't want to share this or just tell me no, but um, do you think that your extreme accountability for yourself and what you just described is almost like a reaction because maybe when you were younger, the opposite happened to you? And I don't know if that's true or not, but sometimes we either do exactly what was done to us or we go the complete opposite. So when you were growing up, was that one of the things where it was never that person's fault? They never took accountability. So maybe now that's something you're very passionate about. Talk to me about that.
That is 100% accurate. Nothing that went on in the house, if it was wrong, was my parents' fault, and it was
Mhm.
always the kids that did something wrong or we messed things up somehow, some way. And growing up in that environment, it's a horrible place to be. It's interesting because my brother and I grew up in the same environment, but we went 2 very different paths.
That's
He
what you
went down
see
the same
though.
path.
Yeah, you see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he went down the same path with drugs and alcohol and the victim mentality and everything happens to me and it poor me. And I lived in that for a moment, that victim
Yeah.
mentality. But it was super important for me, like you said, to go the other way. And I saw my parents, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm not gonna be as an adult. This is what I'm not gonna be as a parent.
Yep.
And one of the things that my son still brings up to me that I mentioned to him was when my dad would make beef stew. My dad had beef stew. We all had stew with a little tiny piece of beef in it. So my dad's plate had full of all the good stuff that you want in the stew.
Yeah.
And then we all got the vegetables and then just like with one or two small pieces of beef. And that resonated with me so much that growing up, as my kids were growing up, I always ate last.
Yeah.
And that is just has always been my thing is I make my plate last, period.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. My wife tries to get me like, no, come on. And I'm like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
I'll eat last. And my son brought that up to me. He's like, I remember you telling me about that beef stew and that you always made sure we all had enough and we
Yeah.
all were full and we were all ready to go on with the rest of our day. And you would just hang back and do that because that's always meant a lot to me.
That's such a good visual and, a visual representation of what we were talking about. And yeah, I just found it very interesting how, like you said, like one can go one way, one can go the other. I feel like it's always that way. Either you do exactly how the stuff that you didn't like, or you go extreme the other way because you don't want to be that way. You don't want to do that. I also feel like there's this scarcity mindset when people feel the need to always take credit or always take more. Um, I and I want to know your opinion on this, but I feel like it comes from some sort of feeling within them that they don't have enough to give and they're not enough and they aren't feeling empowered, if you want to really go give them too
Yeah.
much credit, I guess. But I do think that that's a big part of why people act that way. They're not self confident. They're not thinking, well, you know what? I don't need to take credit for this end cap because I'm good. Like, I don't need that. They're just like, well, I have to take because I don't have enough. I never have, or I never will.
Mhm.
So talk to me about that. Like people that say, well, if I don't take credit or I don't promote myself or I don't take the meat that I want, then I'll just get taken advantage of or I'll never get seen.
Yeah.
So how do you rebut that?
So growing up, it's kind of funny. I mean, I know you can't really tell in the video, but I'm a very large person.
Yes.
I'm 6'8". I'm 300 pounds. I'm a very, very,
Same, Jason. So couldn't be more different than you
but
and that.
yeah. But my whole life as a kid and growing up, I felt very small. I felt very inferior, and I was always just worried about what my next day is going to look like or what my next hour is going to look like. And I think that having that is growing, being like that growing up made me want to make sure that nobody else felt like that ever again. To make sure that if anybody is, I'm, I have anything to say about it or anything to do about it, that I'm going to make sure people are built up instead of torn down. And that mentality has really served me very, very well in my leadership and in the things that my endeavors that I do today. But you're absolutely right. I think that there are people that just want to take because they feel, I don't know if the word's inferior, but they feel that they're missing something, that
Yeah.
there's a hole within them and they're just trying to fill this hole. I think it's just such, unfortunately, such a wrong way to look at things. I mean, through going back to the story at Hobby Lobby, through that and helping them out, they became such great, great associates who would walk through walls for me.
Yeah.
And I knew that I could leave the store and things would get taken care of. It wouldn't be just time to relax and like, okay, the boss is gone,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and mess around. I knew that they took that very, very seriously. And by living that way and paying that forward, all it does is come back to you exponentially.
Yeah. That's true. And one of the things I find kind of funny, because maybe it's my spiteful side, but I do find it funny that the people that complain the most about, like, oh, I'm not getting clients, or I'm not getting booked, or I'm not getting this or that, are the people that don't give anyone else credit, that don't help anyone else. They're very
Mhm.
often, not every single time. Sometimes it's other
Right.
things, but that's one of the things. Like, if you are always feeling afraid, like, if I don't take the money, or I don't take the credit, or I don't take this, think about that. You're taking. It's all about taking.
Yeah.
What are you giving? And if you're like, well, I'm afraid to give because if I give this, then I won't get, that's fear. So instead of being empowered and being like, I'm good, I don't mind giving first. What's the worst thing? I don't get something back. It's fine. I have enough already. It's a totally different mindset. But by having that mindset, you actually get more. That's what's so interesting to me and so frustrating when I talk to people that are always in that victim mindset. It's like, you got to get out of that or you are never going to get anything.
You have to put in the hard work. I mean,
Yeah.
you just have to put in the work. I am new-ish to the speaking industry, and I'm trying to build a career there from the ground up, and I have no delusions of grandeur. I do not expect to come in and
Yeah.
people just to break down my door to get me to speak to them and their community or their teams. I think it's so important that we do give because you do get that back, and you're so much more pleasant to work with.
Yes,
I mean,
100%.
I
That's
also have a day job where I'm in corporate security.
yeah,
So I answer the
same.
phone.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Same, I'm very intimidating physically.
I answer the phone, "Security, this is Jason, how can I help?" And I got that from, New Amsterdam, a TV show where the doctor,
Okay,
he came in to run the hospital, and that was his thing is, "How can I help?" So
okay.
I kinda took that from that TV show, but my job just in life in general, not security, not speaking. My job is how can I help? How can I make someone else's life a little bit easier? How can I make someone else's life a little bit better? What can I give you that's going to help you to be better? And by doing that and having that mentality, things just come back to you tenfold. It just
Yeah,
does. It's just the way the universe works.
yeah, it yeah, absolutely. That's a lot of what I talk about in my visibility coaching and things, and it's not s people are always, I think, a little surprised that that's such a big part of it, but it is. If you wanna be seen more, you have to help other people be seen, and you have to give a lot. Um, but as we kind of wrap this up, I want to shift the conversation to shift. Tell me about your framework. What does it stand for? And what are you doing with it to help people?
So SHIFT stands for surrender, harness, identify, focus, and transform. So you surrender the delusion that you have control. And that's the hardest part for most people because you think surrender means I'm giving up.
Yeah.
I failed. And that's not what it is at all. It's recognizing the fact that you don't know everything and one way that you're looking at something could be a totally different way in reality. You could be looking at it from a completely different perspective. Going through the rest of them, you harness your past. So you take the stories from your past and you work those into positive things. So a lot of like the stuff that happened to me as a kid,
Yep.
changing that into a framework where in a mindset where, okay, this tragic thing happened, but why did it happen? Not because of I was weak or I was unable to protect myself, but these things happen so that I could help somebody else, so I could give more to someone else, so I can help
Yep.
them through something like this.
Yeah, because now you're Batman, so you're helping a lot of people.
Yes.
I just blew your cover, I'm sorry.
I wish I had the billions of dollars. Let me just say that. And then you identify your story. What story are you telling yourself? To go off on a little quick tangent, I hope that this is okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I have a Target story where I walked into Target and went to the restroom real quick, went and got something to eat from the little cafe area. And then my normal clothes that I wore back then were basketball shorts, a t-shirt, and some Nike Air Force Ones. So
Nice.
that was my that was my uniform. So I'm walking around, and like I said, I'm a fairly large human being, and I came up in retail, so I know when somebody's watching me because they think something's going on. So I'm walking around and I start noticing everybody's watching me. So I'm
Mm,
like, "Oh, okay, they think I'm a threat, they think I'm gonna do something." And the more I walk through here, the more people are just being blatant and watching me. And I'm now my shoulders are starting to go back, my chest comes out a little bit,
yeah.
I start to strut a little bit, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a bad dude. I'm the baddest dude on the planet," right? So I'm walking around. Now they're coordinating. I see them on their walkie-talkies talking to each other. I'm like,
Okay.
"Wow, they're not even trying to hide this. Like, I
Yeah.
must be really, really impressive."
Yeah.
And then I felt something on the back of my calf. So when I went to the bathroom, they didn't have the toilet seat covers. And I took toilet paper, lots of toilet
Uh,
paper, and set
no,
it
I hope
down
they know
on
what
the thing.
to
So when I'm walking around, I
do.
wasn't the baddest dude on the planet. I had a piece of toilet paper about 3 feet long hanging from the back of my shorts all the way to my calf. So my whole perception,
My goodness.
it was so funny. And then I realized, yeah, there, calm down, toilet paper boy. You're not all that. You're not that impressive.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. Okay, that was a good story.
Yeah. So that perception and that the way I was looking at myself was completely inaccurate.
Yeah.
So I had to identify the actual truth of what was going on to be able to really, really pull back in and stop being so full of myself. And that was just God's way of teaching
Yeah.
me some humility. Then moving on, focus, just it's one step at a time, progress over perfection. You just keep doing a little bit here and there, a little bit here and there. And that's going to keep you going forward as opposed to wanting to be perfect and just never finishing. And then transform is transforming your life into the life that you deserve and that you want.
So, how can people work with you? What are some ways if they wanted to, be helped through this framework? Like, what are some options they have to work with you right now?
They can absolutely go to my website, thegricelife.com, all lowercase, all one word,
Okay.
thegricelife.com. Or I'm really big on LinkedIn. I post there almost every day and have started building up a little following, which has been fun. And I really, if you want to learn more about the framework and what I do, going back to giving, I give all of that information out freely. I think that giving that out there helps people recognize what's going on and they makes them want to work with you even more.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today and making me laugh as usual. You're very good at that too, which I appreciate. It's not all serious on this podcast, although we do talk about serious things, but it's fun too. So
Absolutely.
thank you for that. I really do feel like a lot of what you shared will really help people. Hearing your story, I already knew it, but other people didn't. And I hope that when they do listen or watch, they will feel inspired. And also, I hope that they will connect with you after. So I'll make sure that we put all that in the comments or in the description when we post this on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all the places. But for everyone that is watching or listening and you love this episode, please subscribe and like and share with someone that maybe needs to hear Jason's story and his message. That's really the heart of this podcast is we want to help people understand how love really does mean business and how these things that we go through, we learn from them and it can fuel our professional lives and our success. So until next time, keep loving, learning, and leveling up. Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.